The Todd Shapiro Show.
Time to hit the button!
On Canada Talks, SiriusXM 167.
All right, this is exciting. Gotten to know him by hosting some events through his Christmas party and some fun events out in Montreal on the day, a few months back. And a good friend of his, who's an individual who's on the program, Sean Dollinger, and also a co-founder. And Kory Zelickson is the co-founder and VP of Business Development at Namaste Technologies. Thanks for hanging out with us and being on the program.
Thanks for having me, Todd.
So, and are you? We just had another guest. You're also in Vancouver, correct?
I'm actually in Kelowna.
Oh, you're in. Do you live in Kelowna?
I do.
I honestly had no idea. By the way, we've co-host here, Brian O'Gorman, hanging out with us.
Hey, man.
I got to start with that, and we're going to sort of do some of the geography of cannabis coming up. But Kory, I've never been to Kelowna, and all I ever hear is the most beautiful, scenic, sights and obviously lakes and mountains. Is it like everything that people say it is?
It's a great city and a great community here. And we're super happy having moved here and settled in nicely. And you kind of get the best of both worlds, really great summer activities. And if you're into skiing and snowboarding, you have good winter activities as well. So, it's a great place. You should come visit sometime.
I will take you up on that. Can I ask where did you come from? Like, were you Montreal originally?
Winnipeg originally, actually.
Okay, so from Winnipeg to Kelowna. Man, I want to move to Kelowna tomorrow.
Nice.
What's what would be, O'Gorman, have you ever done comedy out in Kelowna?
Oh, yeah, there's a great place called Dakota's out there that does comedy. You ever been to Dakota's, man? Dakota's Tavern?
Not yet. I'm going to do a comedy show in a couple weeks, though.
There you go. It's a great place, man. And like he's saying, if you're into snowboarding or, anything in the mountains, man, there's also some really crazy MMA guys there. There's the Hobayashi. That's where they trained Rory McDonald is in Kelowna, too. So it's amazing
Very
stuff.
Cool.
Out there. Yeah.
I didn't realize that. Hey, Kory, thanks for hanging out with us. A quick history of you being a co-founder of Namaste Technologies. How'd that all come about?
My business partner, Sean Dollinger, he's the CEO of the company. The two of us have been business partners for about 12 years.
And how's the rollout been so far, in your opinion, in Canada?
You know what? It's been really interesting, and a lot is still really new for everybody in the industry. And we've had, we're lucky as Canadians to have had a medical cannabis platform for a number of years already. So. In many countries that don't even, including the U.S., that don't even have medical cannabis platform federally. So I think that as Canadians, we're already ahead of the curve when it came to legalization of cannabis, and obviously legalization of recreational cannabis, I think, is really significant in the overall perception of cannabis and people understanding that it might not be as dangerous as everybody thought in the past. And so, the recreational rollout's been really exciting. The federal government decided to allow each of the provinces to develop their own regulations as it comes to the distribution. A lot of us have heard about, cannabis shortages across the country. So I think that, hopefully over the next period of time, we'll see more Health Canada granting more licenses and bringing more producers online. And, it's a great industry for Canada. There's tax dollars coming in from recreational cannabis sales. There's, revenue and from the aspect of medical cannabis as well, is a huge part of the industry, and it's growing really quickly. So I think overall it's great for the country. There's obviously, it's very fresh and new. So there's going to be a lot of I think trial and error on the government side, and over the course of time as it evolves in each province. But overall, it's really exciting, and I think that Canada is going to set a precedent for many other countries in the future.
Yeah, it's becoming like a lot more normalized too. Have you noticed that sort of in Kelowna and BC and the dispensaries and sort of other cannabis-friendly places? That there's sort of, I guess, an influx of what I would call like normal people walking around, like sort of like soccer moms in these places. The stigma's starting to come off of it, a little bit more than there was before.
Yeah, definitely. I think that we're slowly chipping away at the stigma, and there's definitely people that might not have tried cannabis that might now, because it's legal or it's available, from a recreational perspective. And, obviously BC's, more as a province has been much more deeply ingrained in that community, I think, as well. And, it's really refreshing to see that shift in mentality, from people.
And one of the things, I'm always sort of proudest of as being a Canadian, really, is the fact that this government really took a great angle on educating and educating people about it, and that helps end the stigma. And that, I think the government should be recognized for that in terms of, not obviously making it legal and everything, but the true education of it is really the most important thing in people's ignorant views on cannabis. And I encourage everyone to always educate yourself. There's slogans that came out of Colorado, which was start low and go slow. All these really important slogans to educate yourself around this, the way you should with anything in life, really. You educate yourself before you get behind the carver wheel to drive. You learn from an instructor. So educate yourself.
Yeah, you just don't want to be jumping into the cannabis world all willy-nilly, going full tilt,
Just educate. And how's it say in a country like Australia, Kory?
Well, Australia has a medical marijuana platform, but still it's quite restrictive, even in comparison with our medical cannabis platform now. So, it's evolving, but it is there for sure.
And same for the UK?
UK as well, and other countries in Europe. UK has just basically legalized medical cannabis recently, but, again, it's quite restrictive in terms of, who can qualify for a prescription and who's allowed to give a prescription for it. But, I really see that, especially the UK, in my opinion, we'll see it sort of roll out very similar to the way that medical cannabis did in Canada. I think we're all gung-ho about recreational cannabis. And, I think that you'll see a lot more countries obviously bringing on medical cannabis before recreational. So, from an international perspective, I think people can anticipate looking more so at different countries that implement some form of medical cannabis versus, recreational right away.
Kory Zelickson's joining us, and VP of Business Development over at Namaste Technologies. This country and stuff, are we looked at? Is this just one big sort of science experiment? Are we the big guinea pig here for the rest of the world?
You know what? I think that, obviously Canadians as a whole were in favor of this. And, I can't make any medical claims or anything on the show, but I really think that people are starting to understand what cannabis is and does. And what I think is most unique about it is that, I think that a lot of people that would look at it from the way that it's being regulated for recreational cannabis in much the same way as alcohol, but even more restrictive because you can't advertise or put lifestyle branding, and there's all sorts of new restrictions on cannabis that go even beyond the restrictions that are on alcohol. So in that respect, people can view this as a recreational product and it's being regulated as such. But then also the fact that it is a medical product as well. And we have this medical cannabis platform, which is why I think the industry is so exciting, because it's not just like alcohol, where I think you could have a much harder argument to justify medical reasons for alcohol than you might for cannabis, right?
Yeah, I've always thought there should be big time regulations on advertising and lifestyle fast food.
Yeah.
Why are we worried about all that fast food eating, Kory? Hey, I just think these sort of these catch ups and informational sessions are really so important. There are still so many people, as and as Brian O'Gorman sort of alluded to, that still have a stigma, and just the education aspect and learning about that it is there's still a big time medical side, and people can always go and speak to a doctor about that if they're ever concerned. And I just think learning about what the world is doing, following in the steps of what Canada has done, and it's really neat talking to someone who's within a company that is sort of in all these different countries, and really quite fascinating getting an understanding by it all, Kory. I do appreciate you being on the program.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was great to be on.
Thank you so much. Kory Zelickson, everyone, again, co-founder and the business development over there at Namaste Technologies.
You're listening to The Todd Shapiro Show.
You're still here? It's over. go home. Go.
On Canada Talks, SiriusXM 167.